Welcome to Only One You Need Radio. We're not the only one you need. You are. We just show you how to get out of your own way. With your host, speaker, author, business coach, and consultant, David Dubé.
Welcome to Only One You Need Radio. It's your host, David Dubé. Super excited to have you here with me today. In episode 50, I talked about learning, the learning styles, the 4 learning styles. And then in episode 51, we talked about optimizing yourself for learning and recall and the best things to do. And I broke it into 3 categories. First is stress reduction, planning it, and then post-learning. And now what I'm actually going to do is break it down into the best practices that are typical for visuals, auditories, learning, kinesthetics, and digitals for their learning styles. So if you haven't already listened to episode 50, go back and listen to that before you listen to either 51 or episode 52 right here. Strongly urge that you do that in consuming this information, as those are very applicable to what we're going to be covering here. So this is optimized learning for each of the learning styles. Now, I want you to understand that as I go through this, it doesn't mean you can't. So if you're not a visual, that you shouldn't use these. It's not at all. These are typical of what's best for the visual and typical what's best for the auditory, kinesthetic, and digital, right? For each of them. But like myself, I'm very strong. I'm the strongest visual, but my second strongest one is kinesthetic. And so those that are applicable to kinesthetic, definitely I can use as a visual, but that's because I'm a strong hybrid of the two. Now we all use these, all of these, we all have access to them. And sometimes it's weird with certain things we love to geek out on, right? You have your thing that you geek out on more than anything else. Maybe you're someone who's into technology, or you're into specific form of technology, and it just gets your juices flowing. And when you pick up a book on it, or when you do anything, you just absolutely love to consume it, right? So you geek out on certain things more than any other thing. And with that, maybe your learning style changes based upon that, because the information, you just want to consume every amount of information on that specific thing, whether it's technical or not technical, you love it so much. So based on that, this stuff, even if you're an auditory learner, the digital stuff might be very applicable to you based on that one specific thing that you love to learn so much about. So don't think that any one of these you can't use, no matter what you think your dominant learning style is. You can use any and all of them, okay? It's just typical of the specific type of style that this happens to be on their radar. Does that make sense? I hope we're on the same page here. I can't see you if you're raising your hand or saying, yes, this makes sense. All right, so I'm going to go into this. We're going to start off with visual, then move to auditory, then kinesthetic, then digital. And as I go through this, it's going to make hopefully more sense to you. So this is how to not only optimize learning for yourself, but also create better types of learning for that specific type, and also faster recall of it, depending on what it is that we're talking about. So you'll start to grasp that as I go through this as well. So visual learning style, after you learn the information, creating a visual of it. What does it represent to you? So whether you're drawing it or creating a collage of it, creating a representation of what you learned or breaking it down visually will help you to consume that content better, to retain that content better. For myself, this is something I do as a visual. I have a whiteboard in the room next door to where I'm at recording this. And so my entire wall is whiteboard. And what I do is I go in there and I'll whiteboard ideas out, and I'll create a mind map of either an idea I have or something I just learned. And I'll put it out on the board in a way that visually represents what it is that I'm either trying to accomplish, or that I've just learned, or that I want to teach. So I do that all the time. And it helps me to not only retain the information, but also to find the pieces that are missing, the things that I need to know, that I don't know yet, or that I haven't posted yet, or haven't figured out yet. So it helps me find holes, and it also helps me fill those holes with the stuff that I feel like I'm missing, or I didn't get, or what have you. So mind mapping is huge. Watching videos, right? Visual just seems obvious. You're going to watch a video. So watching videos, I watch a lot of videos personally. I like watching videos. As a visual person, I'm attracted to see what's on there. Even if it's just a person on screen talking, it's more attractive to me than just listening to an audio. And some people are that way. Some people aren't that way. I'm typically that way. Another thing is acronyms. Learning acronyms or creating acronyms based on what you learned to shorten it. Now, this can be used by, obviously, I recommend everyone doing this because it helps you create an acuity of learning what of what you just consumed or what you're creating, and it helps you put it into a model that you remember. Why? Because you created it. And I've done this myself with many different things. I have my Epic morning program. Epic stands for something. I created that. And so it's a great technique that anyone and everyone should try to use. The other part too is cutting out the BS, right? This is why mind mapping helps me. I'm one of those get to the point kind of guys. Not all the time, but very often I'm like, all right, let's get to the point. I want the main meat of whatever it is that we're talking about. So cutting out the BS and doing that, once again, I find that a great way to do that is to mind map myself, or before I create an outline for what I've learned, and that helps me constantly all the time because it creates a visual of what it is that I'm learning. Now let's talk about auditories here. I guess go back here, the Cliff Notes version. This is something that, if there's a book out there that you want to read, sometimes you get the Cliff Notes version that's going to just give you the meat of what it is that you really want to consume. Visuals, they're like wide brush strokes. So give me the main meat and potatoes of it all. If you're a vegan, give me the potatoes of it. What is the main source of what I need to know? The broad strokes, not necessarily the details that lie in it. Okay, let's talk about auditories here. Auditories. This seems cut and dry, simple. Listen to audios. Listen to audios. Just play an audio. Find whatever content you're looking at learning and find other content that's associated with it and listen to it in an audio format. Listen to other instructors or other teachers or other authors who have same or similar stuff, but listen to the audio. If you're taking online training and you have the ability to download the audio and listen to the audio. Another nice thing about that is depending on the apps you use, you can speed up the audio. You can double it, triple it, et cetera, so you can consume the audio quicker. Now, our mind can listen to more words than are typically coming out of someone's mouth. So if you're listening to this on iTunes, you have the ability to speed up my voice so you can actually listen to it at the rate that your mind will actually absorb it, as opposed to filling in the blank spots with whatever your mind wants to, which is what we all do. When there's delays in audio or something catches your attention, your mind will go on a tangent and listen to its own self before coming back to the audio and consuming the audio again. So it's nice to have the audio and then speed up the audio. So listening to audios is going to be huge. And if you're going to a place and you can get the audios later, do that. It'll definitely help. Speed reading. This is huge. If you can speed read something and retain it, it's well worth it. There's several different groups that teach speed reading out there. There's actually a lot of individuals who teach speed reading out there. And it's worth investing in as long as you use it and you understand what it is that you're doing, why you're doing it. So speed reading can be something of great help to not just auditories, but really to anyone. Brainstorming. Here's another one. Brainstorm, whether it's, pre-learning or post-learning. Definitely post-learning, you'll be able to get out of your mind and your body the audio. What is it you just learned? Throw out the ideas. Like, once again, the whiteboard idea is a great one to map it or to put it out of you. Say it out loud, brainstorm it, get it out of you so you can regurgitate, but re-listening to yourself talk about what it is that you just heard. Another thing, especially for auditories, that they're so good at, oftentimes they're great storytellers. So retelling what you learned, but putting it into story format, if that isn't the way you learned it, but putting it into story format, it's going to help you retain it so much better. And if you're already a good storyteller, then this is hugely helpful for you to retain anything. The cool part about this is if you're, I talked about in the last episode, teaching someone else what you just learned, by turning it into a story, you make it so much more relatable. A great example of this is we learn best by what we already know. What do I mean by that? If you know how to drive and I'm teaching you something that you don't know at all, but I can relate it to driving, you're going to better retain it because you already have a place to put it, because you already know how to drive. You know what the brake is, what the gas is. You know how to left, right are. You know what the turn signal is, the windshield wiper. You know how all those things are. So if I can relate it to driving, you're going to get it better. By creating that metaphor, it makes it embed into you much easier. So auditories, if you can do that, you're going to be that much more successful at not only teaching it, but retaining it. Let's talk about kinesthetic learners. Find your tick. This is probably one of the biggest things. Kinesthetics, they have ticks. Ticks, what do I mean by that? Like if they have a pen, they'll click their pen while listening to something or someone speak. They will do something physically at the same time as listening, and it helps them to consume the information. If they can't do something, like if their foot's not shaking, if they're not tapping on something, if they don't have a pen in their hand that they can flip-flop around, or they don't have a coin going around their hand, they typically need, so they have this tick often that they do. Now, if you don't know what your tick is, find it. Find one that's also not distracting to other people. Because if you're a pen clicker, it's distracting to other people. So if you're around other people and that's something you know that you like to do, don't do that. You're going to piss people off and you're going to make it distracting for them to learn. We don't want that. You also don't want that either. It's just bad. That's a bad habit. So if that's you, change that. Find something that you can do that's not going to be distracting to other people or make noise to distract other people. If someone's noticing you, flipping your pen around, that's distracting to them, but that's only because they're noticing that specific thing. If you're making a noise, that's much more hard. That's much more difficult to ignore, especially when you're listening to someone else speak, than if you're flipping a coin around in your hand or you have like a spinner fidget or something like that. So figure out what your tick is, and if you don't just have one, find one that's not going to be distracting or loud to other people and do that. Learn shorthand. Shorthand is crazy good. Shorthand, my mom, she has notebooks after notebooks that I found of her shorthand. Can I read any of it? I have no idea what any of it means. Not a clue. In fact, before my mom passed away, I'd asked her if she knew what any of that meant, and she said it'd been so long she doesn't remember. There are books on shorthand. You can go to Amazon, Barnes & Noble, wherever, and find books on shorthand and learn what shorthand is. But it enables you, if you're listening to someone speaking, it lets you put all the things that are important down on paper quick enough where you're not writing sometimes, which is a fairly long word for something that, it takes a lot longer to write than it does to say, right? So if you have shorthand for it, you're going to be able to figure out a whole lot and fit more onto the paper that has more meat to it. Or if you're vegan, once again, more potatoes than to it. than anything else. You're going to be able to consume more. So learning shorthand, which also brings me to taking notes. Use handwriting. Write. Do not use a computer to take notes on, especially if you're kinesthetic. Write it. But this really goes for everyone. Write it down. Pen to paper has more substance to it than taking notes through typing. More people can recall what they wrote down than they can what they typed into a computer. Why? Because, once again, it's one of those automatic things. Writing by hand is less automatic than clicking keys. It's crazy, but true. Brainstorm. Also, the brainstorming thing, which relates to the mind mapping thing, but brainstorming, getting it out of you and doing it through the hand to paper is super important for kinesthetics, once again. The acronyms thing works here as well. Strong with acronyms. Journaling, once again, it leads back to hand to paper, journaling. Post-it notes. This is also a big one for kinesthetic learners. Post-it notes. Since they're feelers, touchers and feelers of things, putting Post-it notes. If you're learning a new language, putting the Post-it notes on the lamp, the fridge, the microwave, the oven, the keyboard, the whatever, having those Post-it notes is a great, not only visual reminder, but a kinesthetic one because you're in front of it, you're touching it, you can feel it. That's huge. Another one that's really good for the kinesthetic is role-playing. Now, role-playing is great across the board for visuals, auditory, kinesthetic, and digitals. Here's the thing. As a visual myself, I absolutely deplore. Like, I don't look forward to it. I don't like it. I don't enjoy it. Role-playing, don't. Just not what I really want to do. As a kinesthetic, the kinesthetic side of me actually enjoys it for some reason. And I think that's partly due to the fact that I like to act, and I just like to act goofy sometimes. So role-playing can enable me to just act a little more goofy and yet have fun with it. So role-playing, because the kinesthetics are feelers, they get to feel through the interaction a lot better. And when you're able to feel through an interaction, you're able to process it a lot easier than if you don't feel through it. And mind you, this is important for all of the learning styles, but especially that of the kinesthetic learner. So if you're a kinesthetic learner, role-playing should be something you should absolutely do, albeit it's recommended that everyone should do it. Now, there are multiple ways to do role-playing. You don't just have to find a partner and role-play. You can actually do this in your mind's eye as well. It takes a lot more practice before it feels natural and it feels real, but you can do it. So role-playing is huge. Let's get to the digital learner. Now, the digital learner, these are the ones. So after you've learned the content, going back and I guess before that, talking about shorthand once again is great for them. Speed reading is really good for a digital as well. But giving them the manual for something, they want the manual for it. They want the A to Z. They want the feature. They want the benefit, but they really want to know all the details to everything. A digital learner wants the depth from everything and anything. They want to consume every part of it. So after learning something, for them, spreadsheets are huge. Being able to spreadsheet it out to, it's similar to that of a mind map or a brainstorm, but creating a spreadsheet of once again, the meat and potatoes of the information is going to help them a lot. Breaking it down. So through taking notes, but breaking it down to its smallest component is absolutely one of the biggest things. And digitals are also great at that, since they are probably the best problem solvers out there. For that being the case, one of the best things is breaking it down to its smallest component. This is why spreadsheeting is so helpful and useful for them. Because once you break it down to the smallest component, guess what? You have pretty much the gear that makes it move. And that's what digitals are great at, breaking things down and then organizing them in the A through Z process, or a 1 through whatever process. So that, my friend, is essentially covering all the learning styles and the best types of ways to go about whether it's consuming the knowledge or breaking the knowledge down after you had learned it. So very important information here. If this was useful, helpful to you, please do me a favor, do others a favor, and share this out with them. Help others through this by sharing it out. That'd be great. And if you're not subscribed already, subscribe. If you're on YouTube, leave a comment and subscribe. Get notified when I come out with new episodes. If you're on iTunes, be sure to rate this channel, rate this station. I would greatly appreciate it. Thanks for being here. I'm David Dubé with Only When You Need Radio, and it's time that you be the person you're meant to be, believe in all that you're capable of, and become more than you thought imaginable. I look forward to catching you on the next episode. Take care.